Exit your 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Exit your 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Exit your 9 to 5. Get gone, get going, got goals, gotta save. Bye bye, bye bye. Exit your 9 to 5. Exit your 9 to 5. Exit your 9 to 5. Get gone, get going, got goals, gotta save. Bye bye, bye bye. Exit your 9 to 5.
I got a dream, got the passion, made a plan to get the means.
Hi, thanks for tuning to Exit Your 9 to 5.
Yes.
I'm one of your hosts, T. McGregor. Thank you for tuning in.
I'm Jerome McGregor.
And I'm John Bailey. How you doing?
Yes, guys. Before we jump into today's episode, we want you to do us a huge favor and go ahead and subscribe. Click the notification bell so that you never miss an episode. And you can also join us online at exityour9to5.com. So, before we get into today's episode, we got to pay a little bit of bills. So, we'll be right back.
We shall return.
You're only the boss if you put up your own money. If you don't put up your own money, I don't care how much somebody gives you, you're nothing but a supervisor. It's not yours. So how much money can you get paid to not? There's no money in this world for someone to pay me so they could call me, so I could call them a boss. That's like calling somebody daddy because you don't own it. I'm telling you, no, I'm telling you why. I'm telling you why. Question. Let me answer your question. Can you give it to your son?
Can I give what to my son?
Whatever you
shares
working
of this
for.
company? I
Yeah.
absolutely positively can.
How?
How? Because I own shares of this company.
You bought her?
Yes.
What I'm saying is, can your son eat? Is this yours to give the whole company
This
to
full
you?
company is
I'm
not
asking
my
you-
son's. No,
exactly.
It's not mine. But I own
Wait,
shares of
stop.
this company.
Listen. That's
I'm
not my
listening.
question. If your son needs a job here, can you give it to him? No.
No.
If your son needs to get some money out the bank from here, some cash flow, can he get it?
No.
All right. You don't own this.
But I can take
Stop.
the, I
I'm
can
just
take the
telling
money
you.
from here to invest in myself.
No, it's not yours. I'm not gonna fight for something I don't own. Men don't do that. I don't fight for other niggas. I fight for me. I'm not a doula. I'm not gonna build somebody else's company and then take shares so my son can. All that.
But I'm not
no,
fighting for
listen,
this company,
listen.
though.
What I'm saying.
But what about taking the
I'm not
money?
here-
You come
the
to
same
work
way you
every
took the
day.
money from
I
Def
come to
Jam.
work-
I
or
didn't take.
whoever.
Wait, stop! Don't say.
I
You're
come to
speaking
work
my
because I
business and you
enjoy
don't
it.
know what you're talking about. We put up our own money for Rockefeller, right?
Okay.
Then we sold half of it. We became partners. So that means no one gave us anything. We were 50-50 partners. We built something and sold it. That doesn't mean you work for somebody. See, they let you believe that. So then what happened was, based on a formula. You want to know what a formula is? It was profit times a certain number. So if you make this much profit times 7, that's how much your number is.
Okay.
Based on that formula, they bought the rest. That's it. That's not nobody giving me money. I never worked for them. I put up way more money than Def Jam put up. Me, Biggs, and Jay put way more money up into Def Jam. I mean, rather into Rockefeller than Def Jam. All they did was collect our money. What you mean? Why you think Def Jam? First of all, when we were with Def Jam, they were bought by Universal. How you gonna call Def? How you gonna think someone that's bought by someone could be someone's boss? That's my point. You have to understand what you're doing in business because you got to do what's best for your kids. What's best for your kids is to put your money into something, distress, go through all of it. So when your child becomes a man, he doesn't have to work for nobody.
Right, well, that's the
you
whole
can
thing.
just pass it to him.
Now you talk about
So,
us on radio.
so if you're gonna work 20 years in a business or 15 years in a business every day over and over again, and your son can't work here whenever he feel like it, you clowning
But
me.
I don't want him to work
But that's
here.
me.
That's
I'm
the
not
thing.
saying you,
I'm
if
here
you
because
owned
I
it. Wait a
enjoy it.
second.
I'm here because I
Time
enjoy it.
out.
I don't need a check
That's
here.
stupid. You should
That's
be.
like Murder Mook.
Time
He
out.
rap because he enjoy it, not because he want a check.
You're wrong.
I'm here because
I like the
enjoy
check.
it.
Wait, time out.
I'm here because I
Time
enjoy
out.
it.
Time
I don't need
out.
a
You're
check.
lying.
I'm not serious. I don't need a
Before
check.
you lose your control,
No,
just
you say
stay
you do your
focused.
like you say, do your
So
homework.
here, listen
Do
to
your
me.
homework. I
So
work here because I enjoy
why don't you
it.
listen?
I work here for free.
Who could work? Would you ever enjoy being a slave?
I'm not. It's not a slave. This is what I enjoy.
I don't think this is
enjoy
slavery,
DJing.
Dan.
Do you have
I
to come to
enjoy
work today?
producers.
Do you
I
have a
enjoy
choice?
it.
Do you have to ask somebody
to
when
do
you have to?
anything.
Yes,
I
you do.
don't. I don't.
Or
I
you're
honestly
fired.
don't.
Can somebody tell you you're
I
fired?
honestly don't.
Can somebody tell you you're fired? Yes or no?
And be good.
Can another man say you're fired?
Absolutely.
No one can tell me that. And that's priceless to me.
But I'm here because I
don't
enjoy
care.
it.
You enjoy
If I
having a
enjoy
man
it,
be able
I
to
can
tell
work
you
here
you're
as much as
fired.
I want.
But
You
I don't
enjoy.
need the
Okay, let me
check.
ask you a
I'm not here for
question.
the
So you're
check.
being selfish.
I'm not
Do
here
you
for the
think
check.
your son enjoys you calling somebody else a boss? Don't you think your son would rather wake up with you and you could pick him up from school instead of having to do a 9 to 5?
I pick
Don't you
myself every
think?
day.
Yeah, all right, but don't
I
you
pick
have to
myself
wake up
every
at
day.
4 in the morning? Don't you think your son would love if his name was up there, Dash or whatever your last name is instead of somebody else's? My
Casey,
pride is
my
in my
son has a
children.
bunch
Like,
of-
look what I'm
Dave,
doing
what
right
if
now.
it's
Look at my son. I taught my son never to have a boss. He's 23. He owns a restaurant. He has cookies. He has equity. He busts his ass so he can pass it on to his son. If that's not what you hustlers for, you're selfish. You keep saying I'm worried about my kids. This is frustrating because you're on the radio and this message is crazy to me. You're saying because you enjoy music or being a DJ, you enjoy having a boss. If you enjoy being a DJ, just why don't you own your own radio station and then DJ for your own radio station so your son can just get on anytime he wants? That's all I'm saying.
But it's steps
You
to it,
enjoy,
though.
no, there's no steps to it because I do it. See, you enjoy the safety and the security of a job every day. But there's no pride in that to me. My son takes pride. My kids take pride in the fact that I have Dash Motors. And because I have that, my son said, I'm not going to ever have a boss. His mentality is different. It's just about changing mentality.
Now let me ask you a question. There's millions of people out there that don't have that opportunity and
all have the opportunity.
a boss every day. So you basically saying because they have a boss, there's no pride in it?
I think because people on the radio tell people it's okay to have a boss, they don't understand that they can have more. And because of the direct-to-consumer relationship, the internet, there's no excuse. So when I make a movie like Losades, I don't have to ask if I could put Daniel in a movie. I just do it. I had to ask if I could put... Wait, hold on. I had to ask if I could put Cameron
And paid it for. Okay.
I don't have to ask no more. You understand? There's pride in that. There's just a pride you should have in ownership.
Wow, that was intense, guys. Very intense. I mean, I remember watching this in real time and it was uncomfortable then and it's still uncomfortable now. What do you think, guys? Oof.
I mean, I'm not really in an uncomfortable space, but you know, I understand, and I've also seen some videos of Damon Dash speaking. He spoke about how, hey, it's business. If you don't got problems, you don't have business because, hey, without problems, you won't have a solution. And the main goal is to get to the solution. So show me what the problem is so we can resolve it and get to this money.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I think it was, it had passion, it had intensity. I'm not really afraid of it. It just, however you may land with the words are going to either trigger some things or bring some things up for you. And either way, it's all stuff to look at. So yeah, it was powerful.
It's crazy. It's like most people don't know where they really fit in this universe, let alone trying to argue about if they have a job, if they own the business. It's like most people are just happy to have a job. But part of what we do here at Exit Your 9 to 5 is we challenge that status quo. We want you to think outside that box. And so today, inspired by that conversation from Dame Dash and DJ Envy, we want to soul search a bit. You know, today we are soul searching, guys. In this episode, we want to help you identify just where you are. You know what I mean? But before we get into our topic, we really do have one solid question that's going to help you kind of garner and get into where we're going. Who are you going to be to do the things you want to do, to have what you want to have? So many people,
Wow.
you know, JB, wow.
Yeah, no, that's intense. I mean, that question is loaded with all kinds of great things, and it's just one phrase. It's just one paragraph. Not even a paragraph. It's a snippet, but it's loaded full of tons of things you get to break down and look at. So I love the question. Let's keep going.
Yeah, JB. So many people feel like they have to make a drastic change or adjust, but maybe it's just as simple as centering yourself long enough to ask yourself the right questions.
But people have to even get to being centered.
I know. I mean, I was inspired because JB, you actually asked that question. You said, you know what? Who are you going to be? You know, to do these things. And it really provoked deeper questions, you know.
Yep. I think a lot of people start at the end, right? They want to have all these things. They want to have the house, the car, the trips, the great food, you know, the wonderful memories with their family and friends. And they don't stop and look long enough at the situation and start at the beginning and really go, wait a second, like if I want to be that superhero in my life for my kids, I want to be the father they look up to be, I want to inspire my friends and family, or my wife is always inspired by me, or my husband, depending on the roles in that conversation. You have to look at that and go, well, who am I? Who do I need to be? How do I show up to make these things happen? And then what am I going to do to do it? Those are two of the preface of the question, and we're already at the have, right? So like, take for example what we're dealing with right now in the pandemic and all of the circumstance of the economy and global crisis and trade wars and all these things. You look at it and you go, all right, but what I can listen to that and I can make that part of my narrative, or I can continue to focus on what I want to have and who I have to be to do that, to get it done. And so it's like you have to recite yourself, you have to bring yourself back to the question and make sure that it's still about your vision, because everything else is circumstance.
It's so true. I think most people don't even, like I said, know where to begin or how they should be looking at something. But we recently learned something quite cool, guys. Have you ever heard of an intrapreneur? I know everybody's heard of an entrepreneur, but have you ever heard of an intrapreneur, guys? Comment below. Let us know. What do you think an intrapreneur is versus what an entrepreneur is? And don't be going to Google that shit either. But no.
But Google it.
But Google it.
You know.
So, Stylist, have you heard of an intrapreneur before?
No. It's a new word, foreign to me at least. So I really want to see what it's about, to identify even within my entrepreneurship, in my entrepreneurial journey. How do I connect the dots? What connects me or separates me from being an entrepreneurial versus an entrepreneurial candidate?
You introduced this wonderful word that had me going down the rabbit hole. Can you tell our listeners and our viewers what an entrepreneurial person is?
I think I can reflect best on entrepreneurial. So the intrapreneur to me was introduced to me a couple years ago. I remember I was on a search to figure out what that meant in terms of being in a company. And the experience I have around it was around a campfire. I had a few bosses and professionals and executives around me, and we're all talking about our businesses and talking about structure. And what came to me was, one of them gentlemen was so passionate about creating a business around entrepreneurs. He wanted people to have great ideas. He wanted people to treat the business like their business and grow as a team. And I thought, that doesn't make so much sense because, in my understanding, especially in my journey in professionalism, I've been an entrepreneur and I've also worked in companies. I've worked for corporations, I've worked in restaurants. And so I've at all levels, I look at it and go, as long as I'm being employed by somebody, I'm under the entrepreneur's vision. And so it's difficult for me to embrace being an entrepreneur with an entrepreneur at the control of the ship, because then we might go different ways, because entrepreneurial is an independent journey sometimes. It's really about what you're going to create. So I had to research it. I looked into it and I found intrapreneurial made more sense. Kind of like an intranet for your work. Like it's an internal system you've created, and I want entrepreneurial people to work under me or around me or with me. Sure, yes, 100%, because they can embody the spirit of an entrepreneur. However, still be at what guides them is my vision for the company, and we should be aligned at least with the vision, and then go from there. But that's where I heard about it, and so when I bring it up, it's really because if you are comfortable in your company, however you're scratching the surface, you're wanting more for yourself, but you don't know where to start. It's very intimidating to start your own business. Especially depending on what kind of business you're going to create. You're going to be jumping into shark-infested waters with a paddle and a rowboat, hoping that you're going to make it through, and so it's a difficult process. It takes resilience, it takes discipline. However, if you could do that, have that spirit, be wavering those waters, but you're with a couple other people in other rowboats, there's a power in that number, and you guys actually might reach the success a lot more. And then you're getting in to running a business without actually starting your own business, and that might be okay for you. I think there's a lot of people I've met in the journey that are at directors or managers that are okay with wanting more, and also still having their voice and opinion and bringing ideas to the table. So that's entrepreneur to me. Sorry if I ranted on, but that's kind of where I got the definition from and understanding of what entrepreneurial is, or intrapreneurial is.
You guys know me. I'm a dork, and there's nothing wrong with being a dork who likes to read up on things every now and again. And we looked it up. And Stylist, what did you find out about the intrapreneur?
Well, about the intrapreneur, it states a manager within a company who promotes innovative product development and marketing. Now, I the name entrepreneur, like I said, is so foreign to me, but I'm excited because I know it's a part of a community
Yeah.
that's always going to be about progression. So when looking at that, I had to dive back to reminding myself, what is actually an entrepreneur? And that definition says a person who organizes and operates a business or businesses taking on greater than normal financial risk in order to do so. I'm in a state where I am gaining clarity and I am really seeing some differences through my entrepreneurship journey that allows me to understand more of the entrepreneurial world.
Very true, because entrepreneurship in and of itself is the act of behaving like an entrepreneur while working with a large organization. And most people start out as entrepreneurs, believe it or not, right? Because entrepreneurship is the act of behaving as an entrepreneur while working within a large organization. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, most people do need to find a place where they're going to get their capital. I think the danger in assuming that everybody should be an entrepreneur needs to be addressed, because very much, you know, everyone has ideas and everybody has, you know, the desire and passion to sustain certain things, but not everybody has the resources to go ahead and start a business. So the danger in the conversation with DJ Envy and Dame Dash was for those people who are like, okay, do I quit my job and just go out and start a business? It's like, no. There is a season where you have to be mentored and sponsored in terms of learning how a business actually runs and then finding out where your expertise lies. And then if you're one of those people who just want to throw spaghetti at the wall, that's okay too. But it's going to take a lot of time, effort, energy, and resources. And you have to ask yourself, are you prepared to walk that walk?
Oh, absolutely. It's a long journey in thin souls, you know, and you're going to build that over time. So, you know, strap up, because that's gonna, you know, that takes a lot of a person.
And what's great about it, JB, is that it's still a part of a community where you can grow. And what I take from the entrepreneur experience is also liking to, say, a mentor facilitation role where, you know, you provide an atmosphere as a leader to aid in the entrepreneurial spirit to build a specific foundation, almost like going to college, but it's in the real world and you actually get paid while it's like getting paid to go to college.
They call that on-the-job training when I was coming up.
And it's funny because I've also gone through the experience of being an independent contractor, you know, versus an employee, and then now being an entrepreneur and now learning entrepreneurial. It's like, I think it's a great source and a great start for anyone who is willing to take that chance to hashtag exit your 9-to-5.
Well, I mean, I wanna camp out there for a minute. I want to speak to the person who is kind of like, all right, I feel like there's more that I want out of life. I don't know if that means starting a business. What do I want?
Right?
And what does that look like? I really want to camp out there because it doesn't look like you exiting your job if you have a family and you have good benefits.
It takes planning.
It takes planning, but I really want to stay in the realm of soul searching. We want to ask you these difficult questions.
Yeah.
The question of the day, and I'm going to remind people, is who are you going to be to do the things you want to do to have what you want to have?
What do you
so
want?
that doing, there's something in action, right? Being is an action word. Doing is an action word. You feel what I'm saying, JB?
Yeah, absolutely. And they all play into the what do you want role, because that's what's going to guide you along the mission. If you can visualize what you want to get out of the entire experience, who you're going to be is going to be fueled by that want. Who, you know, what you're going to do is going to be fueled by the want, and what you have is going to be the results of what you wanted. So, you know, you got to break it down And when we talk about entrepreneurial, intrapreneurial, employee, independent contractor, I've done the gig working and the independent contractor, your own boss, but you're your own boss. It's a different paradigm. But they're all related. They all make sense because no matter what, you're going to have to always be in that place. You get to be in that place where you're creating something, and that something should come from your want. So, I hear often a lot of people are upset. They bitch about their job. They bitch about their circumstance. What they're in, rather than be thankful, because it's an opportunity that not everybody embraces that way. And if you switch yourself a little bit and realize that if it's because of what you want, if it's coming from that place, you should be pretty well guided into creating the other parts of that question, which is, being that person, doing that stuff and having it all. It comes from a want. So you got to ask yourself truly, what do I want? And it's a spectrum, by the way. There's no, you're an entrepreneur. This isn't Hogwarts and you're like, got to put the Slytherin cap on and that's where you're at. Like, think about it. You can be, I've wavered in and out of businesses. I started my own businesses. Like, it's just what you want right then. And there's so many chapters in your life. You could be that in this 10 years. In the next 10 years, you could be a different guy. It's okay. Just come from that place. Answer that first question. What do you want?
So true.
Another question we wanted to follow up on with our audience and community is, how long have you wanted it? Not only what do you want, but also how passionate is this desire? What are you willing to do in order to transform your mind, body, and soul for that positioning?
Right.
That it's a form. You're taking a new form. You're not just someone working at a grocery store or a fast food restaurant. You're entering the think tank of the world that helps fuel, feeding people.
Right.
You're a part of boardrooms and groups that are going on these journeys outside of the four walls to be more community based, because the team matters, not just the head.
And it's important for people to understand that. Like, if you don't have that concept about the team mattering, you have to ask yourself, like, is entrepreneurship for you at that point? Because if you don't know what you want and you don't know how long you've wanted it, and then you don't have any idea of what it's going to take to attain that, then is entrepreneurship really for you at this moment in time? Not to say that you have to deny your dream, but you really have to see what development looks like for you
and what timing as well, because you may be in a position where you feel like you're cornered, but the moment you stop to think about repositioning yourself out of that corner, that's the starting tool to even birth, getting a notepad and writing down how long you think it might take and how long it realistically takes to get what you're trying to do done, and what elements and resources you can pull from in your circumstance that may be a low ceiling and allows you to financially be stable and balance the fun side. So then we also have to dive into fun. Like, what are you doing for fun? How costly is your fun? Because some people's lifestyles outweigh their actual financial circumstance with the business they're invested in, or time that they're investing in a business.
No, that's so true. I mean, most people don't know where they are in the journey. So where are you in your journey right now? The sooner you figure that out, the better, because you will be able to assess how you're spending your time. You will be able to assess how you are using your money. And then in that, I think you'll identify exactly what your next steps are. I mean,
I've met some millionaires at local laundromats who you would never know you would never think had money, and they're just responsive enough to just say, hey, like, you could do it too. Like, it's really just about how you spend your money and how
Yeah.
disciplined you are in stopping yourself from spending your money. Because the easiest thing to do once you get it is spend money. The hardest thing to do is get the money.
But you can't be afraid to
Unless,
fail.
unless you're that part.
JB, can you be afraid to fail? If you're gonna be about that life, it's gonna come with some bumps and bruises, right?
Yeah, you're gonna fail. I have a phrase I tell most people: embrace sucking. Just embrace it. Because when you suck, you learn. There's so much wealth in sucking and failing and falling flat on your face, because it's that resilience of picking yourself up, dusting yourself off, and continuing in the stride that you were in just before the event happened. However, just with that, learn. Okay, like my elbow's a little banged up. I got a little bit of a scratch, but I'm gonna dust it off. And next time, I'm gonna look out for that crack and not step off the curb wrong, or whatever the case may be that's happening. Obviously, it's much more monumental when you're an entrepreneur and those failures are big. However, as big as they are, as small as they are, they're still very valuable. So, I want to just close off the how long have you wanted it. I think that people also get stuck in not going back far enough. Like this could be a childhood want that you're tapping into. This could be something that, and at that time, when you're 4 years old and you're zooming around the front yard with your cardboard box wings and you're like, I want to fly when I'm older. It wasn't about money. It was about flying. It was about being free, or like looking at a bird and saying, I want to do that. And the vision was more about a fulfilling want than it was about this monetary value that we kind of all end up striving for at some point, because we're like, wait, okay, so in order for me to fly, I'm actually going to have to make money, because the money's going to pay for my flying lessons, or I'm going to have to pay for the school to go learn. And it becomes then a money conversation. So people are afraid to go back that far because they already knew when they got older that money is what the world, makes the world go round, and they just got that stuck in their head. However, this is what we're talking about now. We're talking about what you want. You're talking about how long you want it. Like, if you were a kid and you wanted to be a lawyer, you're at 25 years old, you're in a dead-end job, you're slinging drinks, and it's great, but you know that it just doesn't have a future that's sustainable, and you always knew you were deserving of more. You're going to have to tap into that childhood version of yourself and remember what courageousness you had when you jumped off the second-story building and tried to fly and broke your leg. There was a different mindset there, and it wasn't about money. It was about, achieving the dream. So, and then we're going to go into, like, what are you willing to do to have it? That's the next question. What are you willing to do to have it? So, that, again, it's that courageousness to jump off the building and try to fly. And then if that works, you're going to go a little higher and go a little higher. So you were willing to continue breaking bones to fly. Were you, or are you, and are you now?
For the greater good of mankind.
Yeah. Like, Stylist, what are you willing to do every day as an independent contractor, as your own business? And, like, what are you willing to do every day when you wake up, knowing that you want all those things and how long you wanted it? Like, what are you willing to do to make that happen every day?
First, I breathe. Then I wiggle my toes and I wiggle my hands. And I say, ooh, I'm alive. And then I look around me and I say, I have love, I have family. Mm-hmm. Then I say, all right, we got business to do.
What does that look like?
What does that look like is creating my atmosphere. Creating my day, my flow. Is saying, how would I spend my day if I could do it and still make the money that I'm able to make?
Right.
So I personally like to start with, like I said, the wiggling of the toes and all that stuff, to acknowledge me, to acknowledge my mortality, and that this may be my last day. However, while I'm here, I'm going to make the best of what I have by myself. But when I'm around other people, I'm still going to carry that same likeness, because I want other people to feel the joy I have, to have the opportunity to be able to think like an entrepreneur, like an entrepreneur. I have the opportunity to think is a big thing. So I think first, then I know I have tasks that I have to take care of, because we happen to be in a timeline where we're constantly behind, but in a good way, because it's that we're just scheduling things out, and sometimes revisions happen. Right. So, I know it's a heavy task to do multimedia and to do heavy editing work that requires you to not even see people. or for you to interact with people. So I have to find balance because that's quarantine in itself.
So true. I want to camp out there. Are you willing to go through uncomfortable stages to attain what it is that you want to attain? For instance,
I am.
For instance, when I knew that I was on my entrepreneur journey, I understood what it entailed, but I wasn't honestly prepared for some of the uncomfortable moments that I would have to go through. Isolation being one, not being able to do everything my friends were doing all the time. And sometimes financially, I had to make sacrifices for my business that left me hungry. And my solution to that was to sleep the day away. But one time, my sister, I'll never forget it, my sister calls me and she's like, "What are you doing? Why aren't you out having a good day?" And I'm asleep. I got the ugly sleep voice on. And she's like, "No, what's really going on?" She called back to back. And I had to just break down and tell her, like, listen, I'm depressed. Financially, things are tight. I chose to keep my website on. Like, I chose to do different things with my money. You know what I mean? And I'm, quote unquote, a celebrity publicist at the time. But what most people don't understand is some celebrities don't value that part of their career. It's a certain entitlement that they have. So it's very rare when you have people who will pay you what you're worth, or sometimes you have to wait to be paid if it's being paid by the studio. And so I had some tight times, and it's like, you don't know that going in sometimes, but if you learn from enough entrepreneurs, if you study and you ask questions, you can actually prepare yourself to get through those humps. You know what I mean?
True. 2 Chainz.
No, guys, so we want to stir you up. We know that COVID is making everyone uncertain, and these times truly are unprecedented. But you have an opportunity now. You have an opportunity to do some soul searching, figure out what it is you want to do, why you want to do it, how it's going to be done, and then prepare yourself for the long haul, because this is your dream that you're talking about. And we thank you so much for just tuning in with us. And we invite you to keep coming back, because Exit Your 9 to 5 is more than just, leaving your job to go live your dream. It's about how do you live the best life. Am I right, fellas?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really embracing what do you want and how you're going to get there and all those lovely things. At the end of the day, Exit Your 9 to 5 is a mindset. It's a way of believing in yourself and believing in the process that you're going to create something, and you're going to attack it like just a maniac on a mission. It's your number one. It's your A1 every day. You wake up and that's the one thing that you're going to focus and think about. And sometimes that willing conversation is, are you willing to not allow the distractions to come in? It's summer. It's the pool season, and well, given the current times, you're making the best of it, and it's very alluring to go back in the backyard and just chill out for half the day and spend time by the pool and catch up with some friends, have a few cocktails, maybe if it's a Sunday. However, for some entrepreneurs, Sunday's Monday, Monday's Wednesday. There's no definition. It's every day is a grind, every day is a work load, but at the end of the day, it's really because that's the vision, and you're going to have much more cocktails and lake and pool parties when you're at that level. So that's what I want to add in. Just overall, Exit 9 to 5, we are going to present a mindset and a clearing for any of those that are just willing to get out of the mundane conversation of a 9 to 5.
Yes. Sorry, it was like an amen moment for real.
I don't know who created this We Hate Mondays movement.
Oh yeah.
But the community and the team at Exit Your 9 to 5 is going to rewrite that scenario. There's no way we have to hate Mondays anymore. However, we know that there's a lot of people who hate Mondays. So that community, we want you guys to tune in lot more, because we're going to show you how you can start to love Mondays and how you can start to re-energize things and reorganize, because once you get into your flow, then you're going to start to even see that your Mondays are your Saturdays. Hey!
To help you flourish. And so today, before we leave you guys, we cannot leave you without some takeaways and some action steps. So the question of the day, like we said, and I'll read it for the last, who are you going to be to do the things you want to do to have what you want to have? Okay? And some questions we want you to ask yourself is, what do you want? How long have you wanted it? What are you willing to do to have it? And if the entrepreneur journey is really for you, maybe you're an intrapreneur. And where are you right now in your journey? Don't beat yourself up. Humble beginnings are the best. And then last, we want to know how you feel about failure, because how you feel about failure will determine your next action steps. And the first action step that we're going to give you, and there's only going to be one, is to take a piece of paper and start writing out some things that you'd like to accomplish. There's still time left in this year.
You got to think about it, people. We got to think.
You do got to think about it. But don't overthink it at the same time. Just write down stuff. You know, we're in exploratory work. This is episode 0. We are creating the context for what we're going to dive into because it's going to get deeper. So let's get this thinking stuff out of the way. Let's identify where you are on that journey. Let's talk about some failures. Let's talk about what you're willing to do. Will you jump off a 2-story building to have your dream? You know, answer the questions, journal it up, have fun with it.
Thank you for tuning in to Exit Your 9 to 5. Once again, we look forward to hanging out again next week. Don't forget to subscribe. You can find us on Anchor. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. Many more. Just visit us online, subscribe. And if you are curious on how to get your, exit strategy together, download our free exit strategy toolkit, and that will get you started on the path. All right, guys? So hit us up with your questions. We want to hear from you. I'm one of your hosts, T.G. McGregor.
Jerome McGregor, you also know me as Stylist.
I'm John Bailey, but you can call me JB.
And you see all of our handles, so join us on social. We'll see you next week, guys. Bye.
Exit your 9 to 5. Get going, got goals, gotta save, bye-bye, bye-bye. Exit your 9 to 5.
I got a dream, got the passion, made a plan to get the